Hi, I'm Nancy Fredericks with Nancy Fredericks International, and I am so delighted that you have chosen to spend a little bit of time listening to Mindful Business Tip number 8. And today, I want to reflect back on a great man's leadership history. And who is that man? Lee Kuan Yew, the past Prime Minister of Singapore, who was Prime Minister from 1959 until 1990, when he stepped down to do a smooth transition for the next coming leader. And what's so unique and amazing about this man is that he turned a small country around. Just think about it. Singapore is 276 and a half miles, which is comparable to half the size of Los Angeles and 2/3 the size of New York. And yet, this country, which when he went into power as a leader, was considered a third world country, and he turned it into a first world country in one generation. I mean, isn't that something all of us as leaders hope to do in our companies and as leaders moving our company into the future? Wouldn't we like to take it from nothing into something spectacular as Singapore is today? I mean, think about it. It is now considered one of the global financial leaders of the world. This third world country in some of us, our lifetime. And let's talk a little bit about this man. I mean, what has occurred is that Singapore now is considered one of the freest marketplaces in the globe. It has freedom for its people. It is a clean country. It is a magnificent country from a global business point of view. And I once listened to this great man, Lee Kuan Yew, speaking about the transformation. And, you know, he was a lovely man to listen to. He was a lovely man to hear talking about leadership because he was very, very clear on what it took to be a leader. So, one of the Charlie Rose interviews that I heard him talking on, Charlie Rose said to him, "Hey, how did you turn this third world country into a first world country?" And he said, "You know, when I first came in to position as Prime Minister, we were kind of a dirty country. You know, people were spitting all over the place and peeing, but from now on I'm going to use the word urinate if it's all right with you, because I'm uncomfortable using the word pee, although he wasn't." And he said, people were urinating all over the place. So we passed a rule that said it's illegal for you to urinate. And that worked for a very, very brief period of time before we had to pass another law where we put in sensors in all of the elevators, because there was a lot of urinating going on in elevators, and people coming in from other countries who are used to a little more cleanliness and not getting in an elevator and smelling urine would not be happy coming to our country. And so it didn't fit in with the vision that he had for Singapore. So they put in sensors in all the elevators. And these old men who didn't want to change tradition, who didn't want to change Singapore, who were perfectly happy with it being a third world country because they knew how to operate within a third world country, resisted the censors. You know, doesn't that sound a little familiar to you? Think about the transformation you last tried to do in your organization. Didn't you have a number of your population that, for all intents and purposes, were urinating over the transformation? Well, what did they do? These old men still resisted change. So they found a way around the censors. They let the elevator doors open, and they walked out, and then they turned around, and you can guess what they were doing. So what was the response to that? Because the reality is you said we couldn't give up the vision of where we were going. We had to hold our population accountable for the vision of where we were going. And so they put cameras on the outside. And they continued to press forward in no urinating in public. And pretty soon, and it took a while, pretty soon Singapore was clean. So then Charlie Rose said to him, you know, what did you do to help move this country, you know, like what moved this country forward from third world to first world? And this is something that I have quoted in a number of my leadership programs because I think it's so important for us to get. This tiny, tiny little country that was so insignificant in the global financial world became one of the ratings that I saw was it was fourth. One of the ratings I saw showed it as third globally. You know, that's against Hong Kong and New York and San Francisco and, you know, all Amsterdam and all of the countries that are known for their financial situations. What did he say? What was his response? And I love this. And he said, you know, we had to keep our eye on being relevant. Do you get that? Relevant. He said, the world is changing. You know, the geopolitics and the economics are changing. And what we had to do, and listen to this, relevance, and what we had to do was watch and ride the wave. Get it? Relevancy and riding the wave. That's my mantra for my company. That should be your mantra for your leadership in your country. What does riding the wave mean? It means you're not getting smashed, that you are on top, and that you know when to jump to the next wave because you're watching and you remain relevant. So, a lot of my coaching with executives in companies all over the country is how do you stay relevant in a world that is changing so rapidly that you blink your eye and all of a sudden it's changed. It's you managing your career. It's you staying in touch with maintaining and getting ahead of relevancy every chance you get. It's you demanding relevancy from yourself. And it's you watching and observing and seeing shifts early in the game so you can ride the wave to success. Relevancy and riding that wave to success. That's what I'm suggesting you do. And that's what made Singapore great. You can argue whether he was a great leader or not. You cannot ever argue with the results this man achieved in his lifetime. Thanks for listening. Much success always. Until next time.